As I enter the center of the circle, I thank the four directions, Mother Earth and Father Sky. Some of you may ask why, and not understand where I'm coming from. That is because we have been kept from our ancient wisdom, torn away from our roots. That is why we have gangbangers, drug dealers, and prostitutes. Identity lost, spiritual death is the cost. Modern day Holocaust since 1492, but nobody's making a big deal about it like they did for the Jew. You see, Hitler's roots go back to Columbus. The first chance they got, they started killing us. To this very day, the killings are continuous. Just look at Chiapas, the southeast corner of Mexico, where Cortez started the killings over 400 years ago. It seems that murder is a ritual for the newly arrival, using the Bible or any other means to justify their atrocities. Took Africa's babies to refill the plantation due to the almost annihilation of the indigenous population. So enter the center of the circle and find your true identity, not a fantasy brought over by the philosophy of a foreign mentality. So I say to thee, yo, 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 Mexica Tiawi. Heavy is the load that we carry, living life as a revolutionary, spitting fire that the four winds will carry to every direction, to every dimension. Heavy is the load that we carry, living life as a revolutionary, spitting fire that the four winds will carry to every direction, through every dimension.
Mexica's a day will come when all of Anahuac will be unified as one. Broken is the cycle once you decide to change your mind, unleashing the ancestries that were left behind. Tezcatlipoca, Quetzalcoatl, Omateo, guide us as we go to fight this evil with a jade heart and an obsidian spirit. I won't cease to persist to tell my people that we still exist. Always a scholar, never a teacher. Don't misunderstand me, brothers, I'm not a preacher, just a man trying the best I can to awaken the lost souls of Aslan. Like the rays of the sun, I'll nurture everyone. The truth's like a gun, you can't deny the crimes that he's done. Son of Yaku, your time is through. Aw shit, sick, some prophecy coming true. The rising of the poor, going up against the gluttonous whore. Like my Zapatista brothers say, ya basta, we can't take this no more. Which Lilo Pochli, the energy of war. My spirit won't cease to exist to rise once more.
Heavy is the load that we carry, living life as a revolutionary, spitting fire that the four winds will carry to every direction, through every dimension. Heavy is the load that we carry, living life as a revolutionary, spitting fire that the four winds will carry to every direction, through every dimension.
Gotta be Iron Man like ghost faces. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding in life is basics. Love makes this, jealousy hates this. Word to J. Woo, ignorance is contagious. The element that shapes this matrix. Take this spirit, shape shift to lyrics. Create this, steer it, don't taste this, you feel it. As it embraces all races, leaving behind divine traces. You can't erase this like permanent marker. Bullseye all the time, top-notch archer. The richest popper spits this proper. Ella spiritu skills, it's all I got to get me through this existence. Moving with this resistance up against this beast is machine. It's got me raging like De La Rocha's theme. I've come to understand the power of cream, so I'm ruled by 1616 proverbs. I observe these raw words converse the God's verse to lost herds of sheep. See, my speech is so deep, most need flow these when this bro speaks or raps a flow. It's all natural. Watch my Mac and load as I crack the mode that entraps the soul. Take a chance, let go, let God unfold unto your soul. Let God unfold unto your soul.
Heavy is the load that we carry, living life as a revolutionary, spitting fire that the four winds will carry to every direction, through every dimension. Heavy is the load that we carry, living life as a revolutionary, spitting fire that the four winds will carry to every.
Make music your business.
Aslan, Mexico, Minnesota. The time is now. There's no more time left to wait. Today. Look, the connection has been made. Aslan, Minnesota, let's do it. Quabli, Mexica, Minnesota brought the fire. Reach out, Khalifa Aslan past the wire. Omeka brought the sunset. Vuh keeps the earth wet. Low snow fertilized the seeds that haven't bloomed yet. Do the dance of Mesli in honor of my Siwat. Science of Tonali to bring you to Anahuac. Cultivate the medicine, teach it till it's evident. Don't stop, won't stop. Truth is the sentiment. Machete, metal lion in. We keep the fire hot. Spot burn down, center stage for the flame to rot. Taste it. We add a little sour to your sugar glaze. Red stars, apathies, the mask that comes. covers my face. No petal roses, there's rows of us hopeless. We brought the bricks, building up conscious little warriors. Cut down your conflict, shut up your logic, break you off like the treaties broken by your fathers.
Straight from Thorn-on-Scene, straight from Thorn-on-Two. Get the knowledge, not from college, from Grandmother Moon. Then I run into you like a relay race. Moving at the speed of life, gotta keep up pace. Stay moving like Olean flowing. My soul sings with life and light, which the soul brings. I know things ain't right throughout these countries. Corrupted officials killing young seeds. But we, the people, outnumber their guns. And we, the people, get our strength from the sun. Many millennium have come to pass, and we still here standing upon our lands with knowledge passed from Goyo Shauki. No doubt she and Thorn-on-Two help me and you. Look at how we do. March 25th, 06, 1 million deep in the street. Oh shit.
All my people in the ghetto, from the slumber, risen from the under, now walking within the struggle de la tierra. We grow seeds, we moving, we do this, we holding it down, fool, we grow dreams. Óyeme, el Bulos Nami, the Olmec, todos diferentes pero con un solo nombre. Independence, el pueblo en pie de lucha, busca, escucha, opina, pero siempre lucha. Únete, muévete, únete, muévete ya. San Fernando, Minnesota, el sereno on the map. Unify. My word is my weapon and I'm strapped on the red road, walk forward through rap. Check it.
The enemy introducing spit fire. Yo, it's that new philosophy. I won't die for the streets, I'd rather live for my peace.
Check it.
Regresado, I got street soldados from los cuatro lados. East side, west side, north side, south side. Always down to right, straight guerrilleros. Smashing like traleros, oppressive opposition. Changing hearts and minds, unlike the Inquisition. I do it with precision, like my ancestors, the brain and heart surgeon. Check the insurgents, cholas con pistolas, bumping elbow rolas. Street pandilleros, now ego guerreros. Igual como el jaguar, on the prowl. As we say it real loud, I won't die for the streets, I'd rather live for my peeps. Yo soy el enemigo, victory's alter ego. Like Buckley the eagle, I fly a little higher, now known as Spitfire. My lyrical choir, been bringing the fire to this evil empire. The people showed, now we know no defeat. We rose like the rose that rose from concrete. El Vuh Olmega nos now bring the heat. And Zero they be making once again brings the beat.
Like a chinachli, we breaking through the skin. I listen to the elders that live within. They tell me the stories of when it began and where we will end up when it all ends. Walk the red road, follow your soul. Don't fall off like the petals of a dying rose. We're all meant to grow like a Xochitl in the soul. The prophecy's been told. Your lengua is the gold that the Spaniards never stole. Keep following the stars like an ancient calendar. They tell you where you are, they tell you where you stand. Anahuac is the land of the ancient Mexican. Anahuac is the land of the ancient Mexican. Anahuac is the land of the ancient Mexican.
Standout events that get people talking.
It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years isn't that long. It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years is like a 4-minute song. It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years isn't that long. It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years is like a 4-minute song. I tried to live my life with a purpose, walk the earth with the spirit of the serpents. Life is conscious vibration and movement or lean, and keeping track of the stars with the Tosolkin ring. Hear the skits all birds sing. Your imagination is a powerful thing when you're locked inside the American dream, the land of the drug fiend and the filthy rich. There has to come a time when this all will switch back to the old ways. Find your way through the maze, burning the it brings happier days.
It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years isn't that long. It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years is like a 4-minute song. It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years isn't that long. It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years is like a 4-minute song.
Searching through my genetic memories, I'm trying to figure out all these ancient mysteries, while surrounded by these battle street casualties and other peeps criticizing these efforts and activities to improve this life in this battle street communities, while at the same time I'm holding down mine. I'm working all day for the racist kind. I'm looking out for the swine, hoping I can find methods so that no soul gets left behind. Yes, I'm including mine. Don't wanna burn out, but I wanna shine. Don't wanna get swept like the sands of time. So I'll keep on struggling through all these obstacles, knowing it's beyond these here obstacles. I'll keep my patience while I keep looking, study the ancients while I keep searching.
It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years isn't that long. It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years is like a 4-minute song. It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years isn't that long. It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years is like a 4-minute song.
500 years I'm alive, we survived, and I feel good. Got a good reason for feeling the way that I do, and who knew that White Eagle would have so many descendants? And my independence as a Native American MC, it's all in remembrance of my heroes, warriors who have always killed cowboys. I found the art form of how to destroy those elements through our toys of microphones, headphones, and sound booths, sound bites, samples to translate our truths. And I'm speaking of what I know. Hexte estango, Otholobi Mojasi Benyahitiros, Hidi Mahi. This is for all of the friends and kinfolk who know this indigenous native hip-hop movement's no joke. This is for the Nogazi, Skitty, Pitahubara, Kikahaki, Chawi, Pawnee, Semino, Mashika, Tiawi, Kisai, MC, El Vuh, we skin tight, cause this native hip-hop movement is the way of my life.
Original inhabitants migrate from Atlantis 23,000 BC, before the Euro-Spanish managed to ravage a Nawak continent, raped it, renamed it, now we're lost in it. AMERI, triple KA from NY to CA, Mashikatawi Hokahe, they taking aim at us, but we aim right back like Leonard Crowdog and Dennis Banks, giving thanks to the elders, helpers who help us stay centered and selfless, never afraid in the land of the thief, home of the slave. From cradle to grave, warriors stand brave. 500 centuries, still they can't break the chain. You digging me? That's why we got peace and dignity, plus a history that's so astronomical. No conquistador or government could ever stop our flow.
It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years isn't that long. It won't be long, my people are strong, and 500 years is like a 4-minute song.
Good grammar and spelling are important, but if you
We start out on this new road. No turning back. But we have our ancestors with us. We're going to continue to dance with them. Dreaming them. Calling them. Seeing them. We are becoming what we were.
It is part of the Mayan prophecies.
7 triangles of light.
Keep walking. You are the spirit of Unapu. Keep walking. We the human, we are doing the spirit of Unapu.
People who say that the gods made them from corn. They planned their lives according to the heavens. Well versed in astronomy, using a sophisticated mathematics, they calculated the movements of the night sky thousands of years into the past and thousands of years into the future. They knew that the universe moved in cycles. Their lives were ruled by the rhythms of the natural world, planting and harvesting, birth and death, just as the great tree of life emerges from the earth.
Always they're connected. Science and religion.
In dreams, we learn from the Maya gods when to plant and when to harvest, when to set a fire and and went to the corn ceremony.
What we're digging up, what we're coming up with is part of our history. And the men that lived here are some of the greatest men we've ever had. And it's a fact that we're getting to know more and more and more about the life of these people.
They still maintain their customs. They still maintain their ways of organizing their societies. And it's very exciting to see how much of the ancient Maya way of life is still alive and well.
Because American history does not begin in 1492 with Columbus. It begins in 200 BC with the first Maya king who wrote his name on a stone. What is happening now is the people who made these places, people like Yashpak or Bird Jaguar or Fakal, are getting back their voices. They are becoming real to us and speaking to the people of the 20th century about who built this place and why and what they felt and what they thought about the world. These are not anonymous people anymore.
You are the spirit of Hunabku. Keep walking. We the human, we are doing the spirit of Hunabku.
Wow. Humbat's Men. I sampled Humbat's Men for that. He's the one saying, keep walking. We're doing the spirit of Hunabku. Keep walking.
That's a dope intro, by the way.
Man.
I've been listening to that intro since I was like 16 years old, Zero.
Wow. That's, you know, when you make art that penetrates the heart of a young man and as an adult can say, hey, thank you for making that. I mean, you can only be humbled by that and honored that, you know. A lot of people don't know that Armando booked me for my first solo show. Ever. Like El Vuh had just decided to part ways, and I got an offer by the brothers from Non-Combatants. And I remember doing their shows because MC Convoy used to be in a band called Non-Combatants. And I just remember your vibe and how respectful everything was. And you guys used to always express, you know, how youthful you were when you first started getting introduced to our music. So I was always humbled with your presence. And now here we are with LA Natives, and we're doing shows, and we're bringing back everything that you as a kid admired. And now you have an opportunity, you have a voice, and you have power in Los Angeles to put someone like me and someone like El Vuh back on the map. So
absolutely, I'm deeply honored. You know, I've met plenty of El Vuh fans in my days, right? And is it a coincidence that the first time I listened to El Vuh, I was just smoking weed in a room when my homie put on that CD? I don't know what it is, but it's always when I'm smoking weed with my friends that I get exposed to new music.
You know, it's weird because I hear that story over and over again by different people. Like, I remember my homie Sart, who is from a really big graffiti crew in Los Angeles, and he used to do murals in the LA River. And they said the first thing he said was, dude, we just used to bump El Vuh over and over again and just do our mural and smoke a joint and really vibe into what you guys are saying. And it was very important what we were saying, you know, that the conscious shift was going to happen. And here we are, everybody confused, everybody locked down, everybody mandatory corporate medicine. That's what I'm going to call it, mandatory corporate medicine. Right? You can't exist on this earth unless you have mandatory corporate medicine.
Well, when's the breaking point, yo?
When people start standing up for their rights and knowing that they're human and they're sovereign. So many topics are happening in the world today. You know, like we got what's the name of that group? Wabo or Wubo? Or
yeah, you know, we have a very special guest in the building. We got Head On.
We invited. Oh, well, let me talk about that for a little bit. So I've been noticing during our podcast that the chat has been lit all the time. And I feel bad that I don't have a keyboard and I can't chat back because your voices need to be heard. Not only just to people who could read them, but maybe some interaction from us while you chat, because you guys are a very important part of our show. The chat room is the family. The chat room is what we do it for. And so I invited Head On to be a part of our podcast in a very specific way, to be dedicated to the chat, to answer back, and to bring up questions. Not every single question is going to be read, but if it's well put together, if it's topical, if it doesn't have hate or disrespect in it, we're going to read it.
Well, it's a hand in glove fit, in my opinion. Head On is a highly influential individual out of Los Angeles, you know. And
he's a hard worker in the community.
And man, I've learned so much from this brother right here.
Mm-hmm. And he's youth. He's a youthful individual. I mean, he's not a spring chicken, but I mean, he's in the mix with, like, you know, East of the River. Those people are, you know, those individuals, they're doing their own movement. They're little generation after us, you know. Like,
well, by any chance, did anyone see the Locks battle with?
I saw it this morning.
Last night.
Dipset.
Oh, that was dope.
It was dope, right?
Yeah, he killed it. Jadakiss.
Jadakiss, man.
You know, I you know what? I've always wondered why Jadakiss was never one of those rappers. You know what I mean? Like that fool had so many dope lyrics and dope metaphors, and he was classic hip hop. He's like in the level of Nas, I think.
Absolutely. You know, that battle yesterday brought a huge smile on my face, man, because, you know, for as much as I love hip hop, you know, Jadakiss and the Locks to me are just like, they never chased the fame. It just came to him, right?
I think he's the prime example. If you continue doing the same thing, even though people aren't giving lots of money during your heyday, during your prime time, you just keep doing it, and no one can deny the truth of your skill. And he took over Madison Square Garden. It was basically
New York,
Jadakiss.
The whole state of New York.
If you look at that rap battle, it was Jadakiss.
It was Jadakiss.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the Locks are dope, and Styles P's dope.
Styles P.
All them are dope, man. They have good songs. What I saw from the Diplomat side was unpracticed, very high, coked out rock stars. And they thought that their lyrics were enough, or their presence was enough.
Yo,
and you got to practice. And you could tell that the Locks practiced. They knew exactly. I heard.
They even called them out on rapping over their vocals.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's exactly what I'm saying. People who rap over vocals did not practice. They just show up for the show. That's who those guys are. People, if you notice, look at that battle one more time, or even just look at an interaction between the Diplomats and then the Locks. You could see that the Locks practiced together. They knew exactly what songs were in those folders in that DJ file. They knew exactly what was coming up next. And
it was disastrous for Dipset, bro.
It just looked bad on them. I wouldn't be proud of being them. And they just have ego. It was just more, and I felt that the era of hip hop where ego is just that, like, oh, look at all this. Look, you can't tell me shit because I have a lot of money. And at a time in the early 90s, you can get away with that.
Right. And it's funny how Dipset got more spins on the radio because of the floss and the glamour and the glitz and the fashion. And
they were with Rock Nation. So they had a better publicist. They had a better everything. You know, the Locks had Rough Riders. Yeah. Rough Riders was a small company. That's why Jadakiss never became the god that he is, bro. Like, I mean, I shouldn't say that because
I don't know. I don't think he ever sold out.
He's like John Coltrane. He just kept playing his fucking horn, and he is dope.
Here's one that I remember. Remember when Eminem first came out and he was just killing it?
Yeah.
And then everybody's wondering, like, who's somebody that can go against him? And then in the internet, everybody was like, Jadakiss. And I don't think it ever happened, but that would have been dope to see.
Absolutely.
I think it would have been something to remember. I mean, they're both, Eminem in his heyday when he was coming out and he was hungry, he was a monster.
Right. So that being said, you know, that lens, that microscope that stage had when it came to, you know, comparing hardcore industry rappers to dudes that are just devoted to the culture. Essentially my dream is to have indigenous hip hop artists on that same stage on Madison Square Garden performing in front of 700,000 viewers live on Instagram, Zero.
Wow.
That's what I'm envisioning, Zero. That's a big dream, right?
That's a very big dream. I don't know if it'll happen. It may happen if we do it in an independent manner where we're paying and funding it. Just kind of like 6ix9ine
Because it
did.
takes, bro.
Because 6ix9ine did a concert in
Right.
Madison Square Garden.
And let's face the facts, Zero. Like, the people who organize that versus battle are people huge in the industry that have the money that could promote the crap out of that segment, right? And you're right. It does take a lot of money to put up to get on a level like that, regardless if you're dope or not. Because like for Dipset, remember they made the baggy pant society, you know, famous, right? With I think they were the first ones who brought the purses out.
Well, they brought the pink shirts.
The pink shirts.
Yeah.
Right?
I just their music has always been mediocre. Like they were like a band that got a Universal record deal. You know what I mean? Like that's the way I felt. Like a really big label drop a mil or two on them. When anybody drops a mil or two on you, you're gonna be remembered or good, or you can come out with this fancy logo. What keeps you in the game is your relentlessness to your craft, which is what Jadakiss did in the Locks, you know, and their skill. They were laughable when it came to the skill part of hip hop. What I liked about it was that they were talking shit. It reminded me of like a Bronx kind of battle, and everybody wouldn't let the next guy go. And
essentially, that's the competitiveness that hip hop was derived from, right? Yeah. DMX would battle, Jadakiss would battle whoever's spitting Corrupt or the Dog Pound. He told me a story where he would just go up to dudes and ask him, "Yo, you rap? Well, let's battle. I don't care if you have a name or not."
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And much respect to those OGs. All those dudes are real OGs in the game.
Well, they had careers, they signed deals, they got promoted. They are who they are, you know. But skill-wise, Locks took it. They just took it. They practiced. They looked polished. I mean, fucking Jadakiss came out with a freestyle that dissed all the fucking whole crew. It really, honestly, what I liked about what I saw was that Jadakiss finally almost seemed like he headlined Madison Square Garden.
Absolutely.
That was enough for me because I'm a fan of his when, you know, he came out. And his mixtapes are like, his verses on the mixtapes are like, fuck, when is this dude gonna roll? But you could tell that his attitude, maybe the way he thought about it, never wanted to get burned. And that's, you know, legit. You know, you're going to go into the industry with those kind of people, you're going to get burned. Something's going to happen. You're going to lose a couple mil. And the fact that he kept going, building his skill, still being him in 2022, fuck, dude, that's like that's a monster to deal with if you're going to go up against him or their crew. Because their crew was polished. It's not like their crew sounded whack. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, Styles P is dope in
his own right.
Yeah, in his own right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He had that hit song "Locked Up" with Akon. Remember that one?
Oh, that was a dope hit right back in the day.
Right, that was a super hit. You know?
Yeah. Well, they got good spins on the radio, and they did what they did, and that was impressive. It was fun. It was fun to watch. It was commercial. I don't see how they could do that again. I don't know if like you go the Locks against so and so because they burnt out all their hits already. Like, what are they going to do that again? You know, it's going to like seem boring. So it's almost like a one deal thing.
Right. So I was envisioning, you know, Superman versus Dreezus on a stage like that. That would be entertaining.
It would.
Right? Sub One versus Azamali. Right? Yeah. That would be insane.
As our movement grows, as our crowd grows, as our, you know, I like it. Look, when it's coming from the hip hop perspective, and it's coming from New York, and it's coming from Madison Square Garden, that stuff works. It's like I just don't know if the West Coast would embrace something like that.
I think it already does. Like you mentioned, the east side of the river, they have a huge East Coast influence in their music. If you listen to Viva's tracks, there's a huge you know, and those vinyl songs especially, there's a huge hip hop New York style to it, and people accept it. You know, not everyone wants to stay stagnant to just one sound.
I like the sound. I just don't think that like that kind of, I don't know, at some point of watching it when they're interrupting each other, that New York of gritty, like, you know, I don't know.
Too aggressive.
That was the only thing that I, like, it's fun in a moment, but then when you're disrupting this person's song or just before he goes on, like, it's your turn. Okay, I'll talk shit when I get on there and when I come off, but not to interrupt. And it just got too much to that.
Yeah, well, I think just like how the West Coast music, you know, back in the days it was Tupac versus Biggie, we had a different sound, right? We had a different style.
Absolutely.
So the MC battles can be different on the West Coast. You know, they could be more respectful.
But even the Locks recognize the West Coast because they played the Loonies beat.
Yeah.
You know, so like the West has its own. What I'm trying to say is the West has its own vibe.
Yeah.
Has its own little thing. You know, it's not in your face, interrupting, rude, that kind of thing. Where like it was just boring to see the Diplomats trying to ride on ego.
Yeah.
You know, it had nothing to do with their skill, just the amount of money they had or what hit they happened to be on.
But if you remember, that did work. From 2000 to 2010, that worked. Mm-hmm. It was all about flashing money.
Yeah.
You know, remember 50?
But we were in a very economic, you know, like nobody was broke back then.
No.
Fat Joe was on the top of the mountain when it came to that jiggy rap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, Zero?
Yeah. Well, I mean, all those commercial cats. I mean, if you study music, you see what it's for, right? Like a lot of people don't understand. Do you know where the radio started from?
No.
No? It was an insurance company who had an antenna that would reach radios in the house, so he would just play his commercial all day long, right? And people who had radios would, oh, wow, this guy sells insurance, and we should call him, or we should get a hold of him.
So it was a way of communicating.
A way of communicating. So then what he did was he goes, oh, wow, the guy on the corner, he plays really good guitar and sings really well. He happened to be Hank Williams. So he invited Hank Williams to sing his songs, and then right after he sang his songs, they would play the commercial, the commercial. That's where it comes from. So I'm not surprised to see the Diplomats with all their gold chains, and it just looked, it's like, I almost felt bad for Run DMC, where it's like, fuck, these guys couldn't be creative enough to come up with something better than what you can, because that's a Run DMC thing, like Rakim thing. They came out with the flashy gold. Okay, what's next? Right? Well, what's next? It's the same thing except for diamonds now. It's like it just looked. I don't know. I didn't enjoy anything the Diplomats did. Nothing.
Right. And shout out to everyone that came out to that Superman event. How'd you like that, Zero?
That was a vibe, bro. That was like a family vibe. Once again, we put together an event where everybody embraced everybody. Everybody was hugging everybody. Everybody was wanting to get to know everybody. That is a vibe. That is a community. You know, I would hope that somebody on the chat that was their first time going to an LA Natives event, how did you feel leaving? Did you feel like I found a family? I found a place where, you know, I fit and no judgment, and my level of knowledge is accepted, whether it be beginner or ultra understanding, right? Because we have no ego in our place. We only have a community that we need to share and contribute with each other. So that's the way I feel like Indigenous principles work.
And we got September 23rd with Dreezus, Dakota Bear, hosted by Zero of El Vuh, the one and only.
Absolutely.
Creating a hub, a destination for these native artists, right?
And
Zero?
we're just getting started. Like, we want, if anybody has any artists that they may want to recommend to us that are doing good music and that feel like are contributing to our story. Because look, Armando, as much as I want to be on the stage in Madison Square Garden or see the verses between Dreezus and so, I'd rather see Madison Square Garden hearing the story of genocide and our survival of genocide.
Absolutely.
You know, that's really where it's at. I mean, I think people in New York are very peculiar in a sense that they're very financially driven, which it makes sense because that's a port. It's a main hub for finance, right? So being rich and wanting to be rich and all that stuff is pretty much the heart of New York.
Well, think of Jay-Z versus Nas, right? Nas lyrically kills it every single time. But he was trying to give a message, right? He was trying to put some light on some issues, while Jay-Z just wanted to make a buck, right? He just wanted to make money. And he got all the attention. Business-wise, he's a very smart individual. But, he got all the attention. He got all the radio play. While Nas probably got like 2 songs, right, of all his whole catalog. But when it went to the battle of each other, Nas killed him, where Jay-Z couldn't even like deny it, right? And that's when finally Nas got more attention. Now, what was it that got him the attention? It wasn't that lyrically he was a better spitter, because he's always been that. It was that the drama, the battle and the drama. And that's just to prove how addicted we are to drama. Just like when there's bad news, more people tune in than when there's good news, So as individuals, we've been conditioned through colonialism to be attracted to our own trauma and then others' traumas, and many times to, compare. Like, who has worse trauma? Who has it worse than me?
Or who has more
Absolutely
money,
correct.
or who has more money,
Yes.
or who doesn't have that. And that was a prime example in that battle. It was like, it just felt like a concentration camp, and everybody in the concentration camp was trying to be like, I'm better than you in the concentration camp. It's like, come on, bros, you guys got to look around. And believe me, I got entertained. They were very skillful, but I'm glad that Heron pointed it out. We're addicted to our own drama. That's square one in the 4 agreements, is that you got to recognize when you're addicted to your own trauma. So what does that mean? That means that sometimes when people are very happy or good things are happening, they're waiting for, but I'm waiting for the negative to come in. But how about you're just good at what you're doing, and you can see things coming, and you're foreseeing, and you have a good diet, and you have good sleep, and you have good direction, and you're prepared. You don't have to suck yourself into drama, into something bad happening to your vibe. Control your vibe. This is your vibe, your life, your heartbeat, your energy, your connection with the unseen. That's the way I feel. You know what I mean?
Shout out to everyone in the chat, guys. The chat is lit. This is what Wednesdays are all about. It's an open discussion. Feel free to add a question.
What are they saying there? What's going down there?
Everyone's talking about this mural, guys. Can anyone give me some background on that?
So, all right, so let's talk about a little bit about what's going on in the chat.
What's the organization?
Of who?
That's doing this.
So it's one person. She goes by on Instagram. Her new tag, because her old account got taken down. Her tag is the Untamed Turtle. I believe her name is Melanie. And she put together a petition for the mural in Texas. And in Texas, it was successful. And it was taken down, but also because it wasn't just the signing of the petition. People were actually showing up physically, demanding for it to be taken down. Now, it was successful, and somebody brought up like, hey, there's one in LA too. So she got news of it, and she formed a new petition. Now, she's also made a lot of controversial videos, which in my opinion, all she's doing is really putting natives on the front lines, on the spotlight. Like, hey, we have a history of oppression. Yes, black people, we understand your oppression, and yes, you've gone through a lot of oppression just like we have, but don't forget that we were here first. Our oppression came before your oppression historically, right? And in many of the front lines, we've been there fighting side by side with you, but for some reason, it's been them who has like, and I want to be very careful with the way I say it, because this is what got her in trouble, I guess. So they benefited from a lot of the fights, like the civil rights movement, right? But then what happened with natives? Nothing. And even in the civil rights movement, a lot of people don't know, when in the South they were fighting for anti-segregation of schools, it was actually a Chicana who made it possible first here in California, Westminster. Her daughter was going to a school where only brown people were going to, and they were teaching her how to farm. And she was like, no, my child's going to go to a good school. She's going to go to where they're studying, and that's in the white-only area. And she came across this, this good area in LA because the person who used to own it was Japanese, and at that time, they had put them in the Japanese camps. So that's how her and her Chicano husband got this good territory. But they wanted to send her daughter to the poor brown area. So she fought it, and she won. And she won in California. California was the first state to stop segregation. Now, they used it in the Brown Act in the South, but yet, again, we were forgotten. We were left out of the talks.
Well, we'll never be put on the forefront because it's kind of like it's too painful of a story for people to understand, even black people, right? Because everybody goes, they got conquered or the natives lost their land to who? Pedophiles, rapists, thieves. They had a totally different style of warfare. While we were sleeping, they were shooting us through the teepees.
But even that concept of we lost the land, right? Don't you think that's a colonized lens to look at it that way? Because we were never owners of the land.
Absolutely.
We were caretakers of the land.
Absolutely.
So it's not that we lost the land. They took away its best caretakers. And now look at the, caretakers or occupants
I don't
today.
even think we were caretaking. I think we were existing on and had a relationship with, right? And what they did was they severed that relationship. We're not asking for land back. At least the intelligent people aren't asking for land back. They're asking for the ability to be sovereign on the land.
Yes.
Right? Whatever decision, I'm not going to take up that much space. I just need this much space to provide for myself, provide for my family, provide for my community. We need an innate connection with the land that doesn't require paperwork or any sort of official anything. As long as you can survive on it, you should be able to live on it. That's the way I feel.
Now let's elaborate a little bit, because I know for a lot it's going to go over their heads. They're like, "What you mean we want land back?" Because that's a whole movement right now.
Well, they want to. What are you going to do? I mean, the only thing I question to those that are speaking in that manner, what are they going to do? Are they going to file more paperwork? And who are they going to file it with? And what official office is going to recognize it? Look, I've been in this fight for a very long time. I've had my uncles, sweat leaders, sun dancers, go and file in paperwork because they keep saying, we got to fight the system from within. And that would mean erasing white supremacy within this system. And I've come to realize that you can't erase the white supremacy part of the system without it all collapsing. And that's what's happening. I think white supremacy, the colonial rule is collapsing. So everyone's on a free-for-all where everybody's grabbing everything. And that's why I feel like this organization is going, well, we're Olmec. And enough anthropologists say that we came across the Bering Straits and that we were from Africa and now we own everything. It's just, I don't put too much weight in books and documents that are brought here by for colonial purposes.
But even
and training.
Even that train of thought, that's still a colonized mentality. Because to say, well, let's trace everything back and let's make sure that it's undeniable truth, right? Okay, well, if you do it that way, they can't. It's all by theory. And well, this theory makes the most sense, so we're going to push this as facts.
It's always been theoretical.
But it's all theory.
You can't, there is never going to be a human that's going to be able to prove it.
Yeah, and even within those talks, there's people like Graham. I put on the chat for those. Look it up. Graham Hancock and partners he works with, they've debunked that whole theory about us coming over the Bering Strait. He's completely debunked it. Now, he argues that we may be older than everybody else in the world, that this might be the old world, not the new world.
Well, I've recently, had a meditation, and I'm not saying that anything I say is fact. These are my conclusions. These are my opinions.
Strictly your opinions.
Strictly my conclusions, my opinions. Everybody tries to hit me. Who gave me the right to say, and what book did I read? And I read books. I love other people's opinions. It helps me formulate my opinion by reading books, by seeing documentaries, by talking to elders. But I use a very different method to come to my conclusion. Is I use prayer, ceremony, research. It's a collage of things where when I come to a conclusion, that's when I say my thing, because I have that much experience. This isn't my first year studying this stuff. I started studying this stuff since 1994, very deeply, and got into the ceremonies and got into elders that were very, very old, that only spoke to 10 people because that's the only people that cared, right? Prior to 2012.
But we should not overlook or undermine the intelligence that comes from prayer, from self, from ceremonies. For example, sage, right? Our ancestors, they've been telling us, especially the ones in the north, like, hey, sage cleans, it cleanses. Well, in the science lab, they were like, oh, let's put it to the test. So they burned sage for an hour. And then what they determined was that it cleared 98% of the bacteria in the air. That's cleansing, scientifically. But yet they didn't go into all the native ancestors like, damn, you were right this whole time.
It's because we explain it very different. A lot of people think that native culture is primitive and it had no scientific thought. But our whole basis, our yin and yang, was science. It just was explained in a different way. We're cleaning the spirits, man. We're cleaning the bacteria in the room. We're cleaning however you want to look at it, But when you come from after doing some research on Standard Oil, right? The Rockefeller.
The original oil company.
And then the conglomerates coming together to establish universities, to dictate pharma, big pharma, to put the people on the path to this pharmaceutical tyranny, right? You could see it. It was done by rich people. And then people take pride in going to these schools and universities, but the endowments and the money came from big oil.
That's what I wanted to touch on. Now, before I was into my whole native decolonizing era, I was in a huge rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. From the research I did back then, it was Rockefeller who started the Standard Oil, right? He also founded schools in the United States.
Absolutely.
Meaning he was the one who said, here's all this money. We're going to start these institutions to indoctrinate people. And by the way, here are the books that I'm putting forward. They have to be presented. You could add books, but these are going to be the major books.
The narrative has to be okay with, one, capitalism, and two, the exploitation of land.
And he did the same with medicine. He started the first hospitals. He started the first medicine teachings.
So do you know where they got this so-called medicine?
Well, I know it was a collection of little bit of everywhere, including Greek. A lot of it has Greek background.
No, I'm talking about pharmaceuticals.
Oh, the pharmaceuticals. It was the idea of making money and to kill the natural healer.
So I'm telling you that Rockefeller made institutions, right, to follow a narrative, right? And that narrative, he was going to build learning institutions to follow that narrative.
Indoctrination.
Right. But physically, he had byproduct from oil.
Oh, yes.
The byproduct from oil, which was the gelatin, the dehydrated powder, which is Agent Orange, which is chemotherapy, you name it, they put it in a pill. Then they created a council of medicine men to say that pill works.
Or to debunk the guy healing with hemp. And that's how they killed hemp.
Yeah.
Hemp was huge. Hemp was like the biggest thing going on. That's why the original Ford car was made out of hemp. It ran on hemp. And then they pushed him to nope. And then he said, okay, vegetable oil. And they were like, nope. And then he was forced to use gas, right? Even the guy who invented the diesel engine, he had a mysterious death overseas because he wouldn't agree to sell out. And then he died, and then they just took his concept and made it run on oil.
Of course.
But the original diesel was not on oil.
Because this is a capitalist system, and money talks. Violence talks. Money, violence, hypocrisy, land theft, non-recognition of treaty rights. This is America. I'm not talking shit. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the truth. But we go to school, We read about these atrocities and we go, oh, but that happened a long time ago, so it doesn't matter now.
Not only that, if you question it like I did, because I questioned my world history teacher, I would get in trouble and they would send me to the principal's office and they would just have me sit there all day. Because
you're not going to get indoctrinated to a system that tells you white people are superior to you. You will never be an owner of anything. And if you do become an owner of something, be aware of the IRS coming after you.
Well, I had a simple question. My question was, in world history, why are we always learning about Egyptians and Greeks? Can you teach, like, and then I asked, you know I know I was being a clown, but I'm like, how many Greeks and Egyptians in the class? Raise your hand. Nobody. Okay, how many brown people and black people? Everybody raised their hand, right? I'm like, this is in Compton. So I'm like, can we please learn about where we come from? And they would, send me to a principal office.
But see, where you come from points to guilt. It points to atrocities. It points to rape. It points to pedophilia. It points to human trafficking. It points to look at what's happening with Line 3, the second Standing Rock.
Yes, or the new Standing Rock.
It's like super violent, like incredibly violent already. Like Standing Rock bubbled up to that.
Yes.
Right. More people came, but Line 3. Man, they're coming out, guns are swinging, guns are blazing.
Well, that's because they saw what happened with Standing Rock. So they're trying to prevent a Standing Rock of unity. They're like, before it gets to that unity part, where everybody was showing up, every tribe was coming out, even the white allies, putting themselves as, front bodies. Before it gets there, let's go full force on. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah. And it's going to be very difficult to stop them because you have individuals who are indoctrinated who feel like they're protecting America.
Or not just
these
that.
cops. They're going, no, we're protecting America against these terrorists, right? Domestic terrorists, because they're stopping capitalism from coming through here.
But let's break that down. What is protecting America in their eyes, right? Isn't that their livelihoods? Because they're cops, construction worker. I'm a construction worker too. I worked in pipes. And I asked, when I was working in the refinery industry, most of them don't want to be doing that type of work. They're like, yeah, if we could all be working, making the same amount of money doing solar panels, yeah, that would be cool. But here we are because this is what pays. That's just it. It's livelihood. They don't really care what they're doing as long as they're making okay money.
Well, I was looking at Democracy Now! And Amy Goodman said that there was, or I don't know if it was Amy Goodman or the person that they were interviewing, but they were saying that the cops were talking about how much overtime they get, how much hourly they get to do this, to combat these protesters who are only trying to protect water. Let's break that down very quickly because when people go and put their lives on the line, especially women, strong, intelligent warrior men. These men went and studied their whole life. They have the bravery enough to go against this corporation. And when you lose one of them, it's like losing 100 because of all the intention that individual has. This is not the new Standing Rock. This is people standing up against oil companies that are destroying their lands. This is not a new Standing Rock. This isn't a news clip.
Also, this is not a new standing. We've been standing.
Right.
Our people have been standing. And so one thing I was looking at, right? Perception is something I love to always retouch. What is the difference between a colonizer wearing either the suit of England or Spain or France and now wearing a hard hat and a construction vest and having power and authority to say we're going to build a line through here and cops remove these Indians from here? What's the difference? He just traded his suit. He's still a colonizer.
Well, that's the way it works. I mean, a lot of people don't know. You know the Metrolink?
Yeah.
It's owned by a British company. So what does that mean? Well, that means that the person in Britain doesn't give a shit if you're poor, if you're going through a pandemic, if you're doing anything. It just wants its profit. And it doesn't give a shit about anybody there. Exactly. And there is no day where they're going to give you a free ride or this is a community thing. They don't care. They're a private corporation thousands of miles away from you and they don't care. They just want their profit and their money. So when you're on the Metrolink and you don't have your fare and you get your $50 fucking fine, $60, $80. That just puts poor people in a. But what I'm trying to point out is that that's the way these corporations work. It's a Canadian company that's fucking up Wirikuta in Mexico.
Yes.
It's not a Mexican company that's doing that, because a Mexican company would know better that land is very, very sacred. It's been around since the flood. That's the story of Wirikuta, right? 5,000-year-old story. The reason they go and drink the water from the ledge is because it's a sacred symbol that we survived the flood of 5,000 years ago, apparently, according to them.
Right. Here's something I connected right now as we're speaking. So we're naming corporations, right? Comparing them to colonizers.
They are colonized.
And they are.
They're just called corporations.
Yes. They got a new name.
Yeah.
And they made it legal, right?
Right.
And they're
Just like
within
kings,
their own
just like
laws.
kings and queens. There's no more kings and queens. There's only CEOs.
And presidents.
And presidents. There you go.
So, and one thing that's going on, back to the Untamed Turtle. So her Instagram was taken down because she was like really fighting for Native identity and fighting against Native erasure, right? But all the wobbles and all the hot tips, by the way, there's difference. Wobbles are the wannabe aboriginals of the land, which false, not true. And to share something, why do they believe such a thing? Well, I once asked a homie from Compton, right? He's black, and he fights a lot for like what we do, but on the black side, right? Like learn where you come from. And he told me, he's like, all it is that they're so hurt that accepting that where they come from includes slavery, raping, their own people selling them to the whites, then coming over here and being enslaved, losing their traditions, their languages, their land, everything they knew. Knowing that that's where you come from, that's too hurtful. So what's easier to digest? That you're the original native of these lands and everyone else is a guest here or taking your turn. That's a lot easier to digest. And that was his point of view. He's like, they're wrong, but that's what's going on.
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say that when you come from that kind of a background, you're so traumatized that you bully anybody around you because, according to you, you've survived so much.
Yes.
Right? And now you have the right to reclaim who you are, which is what we're doing.
Yes.
I'm doing that. I'm reclaiming who I am without paperwork, without doing, not saying that I wouldn't do it. I'm not going to go swab my mouth though. That's like Wasichu science.
It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it's just Wasichu science, and it's not accurate. They're selling you a story. It's almost like selling you a hamburger.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're like, ooh, look, I'm, 18% this.
Here's it. First of all, it's not completely accurate because they need more population to be included so they can have a
like I said, it's entertainment.
So what if they tell you, but you're for instance, right? Because this is the reason I don't do it. Because what if they tell me you're 30% Native, Indigenous, and then the rest Spanish? I'll be like, okay, well, I guess that makes sense. But then later, say 20 years go by and they have more data now. So they're like, oh, actually, we were wrong. You're 80% Native, Indigenous. And this whole time, I'm just believing I'm only 30%.
You know? And I recently, had a DM from an individual who really hit me with a question. It was like, I'm not following my Catholic traditions and I feel bad about it, right? But I want to reclaim my indigenous traditions and I don't know how or what to do. And I tell him, you can't find this in a book. You're already starting by asking the questions. And then your innate self is going to lead you to answers. It will lead you to books. It will lead you to films. It will lead you to people. It will lead you to ceremonies if you like. This is not a hidden thing. We didn't hide this from anyone. We just got severed from it. We got disconnected. But the connection has always been there. It's called gravity. So science.
Now,
gravity.
Let's go back to, there's a lot of chat right now. And, it's good to have chat and it's good to have dialogue as long as it's done with respect and we respect each other's point of views, right? So let's touch a little bit on what they're saying.
Absolutely.
And what I wanted to continue with. So Wobbles are the wannabe Aboriginal of the land, right? Now, that's not true. It's false. And I got a good perception due to the homie. Like, damn, I never thought about it that way. Like, yeah, that's a lot of pain to digest. It's easier to think this other narrative, right? If you believe it. And then there's hot tips. Hot tips are like white supremacists, but they're African supremacists. And they're not for all black unity either. They don't accept homosexuality. They don't fight for women. They actually like abuse women and really bad people actually. So they are so ingrained with the white supremacy, but through their own black experience. And then they think that Native Americans are one of the lost 7 or 12 tribes, which is just a bunch of other stuff, right? Now, this is not new. This has been going on since the 70s. Even in the movie Don't Be a Menace, there was a dude all dressed up like that. He's the definition of Hotep. Now, let's go back to corporations and how they're, right now fighting us with the pipeline, right? Well, even on Instagram, those are corporations, right? Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you stand up for native rights, you have really high odds that your page will be taken down instantly. But yet all the wobbles and all the Hoteps, their pages are up and running. And they're full of racism and full of hate. But why? Because the white man knows that if they keep us fighting each other, we're distracted from A, the real enemy, and then 2, from recognizing ourselves as the original people and be like, yo, y'all gotta stop this shit. This is our land. Like, we are the caretakers of the land.
It goes back to really how deep your connection is with the land. Because we like to sit in nice houses and not have to go, 2 miles to go get water or build a shelter out of just the earth around you and the resources around you. That's still possible. For me, my whole next goal, if I explain myself, and it going to go back to what the wobbles and whatever else Hoteps are saying, look, we're all sovereign. We all have our own innate connection with Mother Earth. The more you nurture that, water that, understand that, and articulate that is what makes you connected. People get upset because other people go, well, I am this and I'm the original, and I just look at them and laugh, because it's kind of like when in Star Wars, and I hate to use this as an example, but hopefully people will understand it, when Anakin goes against Obi-Wan, and then Anakin's yelling out some things to him. He's all, we don't believe in absolutes, right? It's like when you claim origin, you're saying you're an absolute, complete 100% understanding without a shadow of a doubt. And that's silly coming from a human being who is this tiny speck in this universe. Our humility allowed us to understand the wisdom that we are, not statements and written declarations. Your connection is far more beyond your understanding. So that's why I really can't put too much hatred or attention to people who are just talking from an ego perspective and a nonsensical, doesn't even make sense perspective. Because if we're going to put claim to anything and use documents or books or structures of learning that came from Europe, you're using their shit to prove it.
Yes.
And I only prove it here. When you meet me and I shake your hand, you feel it. When I talk on this mic and I go through that camera, you understand it. Because I have my own connection. That's my sovereign connection. And when you nurture, connect, relate on your own, then none of this makes sense. And you can't lay claim to ownership because it's silly. So our greatest wisdom is to never know.
So
because we will never know.
So the homie George Luis Guerrilla says wobbles are more white than black. Why they be claiming to be Olmec? ?
I think he's touching on a lot of the light-skinned black people are leading this wobble movement. So there's if you go to, people need to travel, first of all. People just need to travel and get to know different areas instead of just being boxed in where they live, right? I've had the opportunity to travel the United States. If you go to Louisiana, if you go to New Orleans, there's going to be a lot of light-skinned black people. The reason is because they have French background, they have Spanish background, and some have indigenous background. So they've been mixed a lot, right? So I think that when you have more mix in you, but you don't know how it happened, where it happened, who it happened with, then you're like in this like really lost area. Like, man, who am I?
You're human. You're human that has its own story that if you humble yourself to yourself will tell you who you are. Right.
That's if you do the spiritual road, right? And I'm glad you brought up ego earlier. This is something I've been battling with. You know how the colonizer came with these imaginary lines of countries, states,
borders,
class, and casting systems, color system.
Absolutely.
But
white supremacy. That's white supremacy.
Yes, white supremacy. But in order for that to exist in the physical world, first it has to exist here, right? So then I started thinking, how have they built those borders and imprisonment within us? And then I started thinking of self-projected egoism, right? And within the ego, they've given the ego so many tools so that we build our own walls. We've done it. We have self-projected our walls. I'm not good enough. I'm not light enough. Or for the light-skinned brother, I'm not dark enough to be native. Or, you know, I'm not this, I'm not. All those are borders and lines, right? So then it's easy to digest those in the physical realm once you've already built them here.
Well, the Jesuits were very precise in indoctrinating humans, right? They said, give me the first 7 years of a human's life and I'll show you a man. Because for the first 7 years, that's why you go to your cataclysm or whatever, the first communion or whatever.
Oh, la primera
I didn't
comunión.
grow up Catholic, so I didn't.
Communion.
Yeah, the first communion or whatever it is. They're indoctrinating you.
Yes.
To what? To think this way, like exactly how you're explaining it. Like to think this way, that you're always a sinner and that you're always this going to be behind the 8 ball and that something bad is always going to happen to you. It's like almost programmed, where in our culture, we put you on a mountain. We put you in a sweat lodge. We put you in an arbor. Figure out life yourself. Let's see how strong your spirit is. Connect on a way that's profound for all of us. That's our culture. That's our understanding.
I'm so glad you brought that up. On the drive back from the sweat lodge, me and my partner were talking, and we're comparing the two because we grew up Catholic, right? And we're like, yo, now that I experienced this way, the sweat lodge and the TP meeting, I was like, yo, in the Catholic church, you go in there, you sit down, and you pretty much shut the fuck up, and you listen to this guy tell you all these lessons, right, that you're supposed to learn. And there's only 2 times you participate. One, you go and drink the blood of Christ and take the body of Christ, and then where's your money at, right? Put your money. In the sweat lodge and in the TP meeting, participation was all night in prayer, singing, passing around water, passing around medicine, and just participating of being there, right?
But there's more going on in there. And if I can add
go
my
ahead.
experience, there's also something being asked of you. Your attention needs to be fully there. You need to sit up. You can't just lay down.
And they'll call you out.
Yes.
They called me
Can
out.
You please stand up?
Yeah.
Can you please sit up? We're praying. There's accountability.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to contrast towards these wobbles or this whatever else out there that's trying to claim what that is. If they can sit in the lodge straight up and handle the ceremony right by your side, then we earn respect towards each other. Our connection is a little bit stronger, right? Because we are sovereign people. We have to be. Were they telling you about your girlfriend? No, they were telling your girlfriend, hey, sit up.
In fact,
were they telling your girlfriend, hey, can you tell your boyfriend to sit up? No, they were telling you to sit up.
In fact, I noticed one thing too. At one point, she became tired, so she was kind of leaning on me. The person next to me was like, hey, you guys can't be too close to each other.
Yeah.
So then I learned it's like an individual journey, but you're in the collective.
That's what gives you strength, is that you know how to sit there on your own. Okay, wobbles? Okay, whatevers? You know what I mean? You want to be connected to this land? Then learn humility. Humility. You would already know not to say that you are original. You would already know that.
To not appropriate.
You are not that. When the eagle gives you a feather, it blessed you. The eagle blessed you. Not you just go grab an eagle feather from someone or take it away or buy it or whatever it is that it is. Even if you do that, it's still connection. It's still connection because your spirit's going, I want something to be given to me. So I'm going to give it to myself until something. I never bought anything. Every feather that I have in my bundle that I carry when I am on stage is something that nature gave to me. See, I call it the great outside of you. Nature and whatever is outside of you is the great outside of you. The complex, chaotic, misunderstood life. And one time I was walking and hiking, and I took one step, and right at the point of my foot, there was a hawk feather. Like right at the point of my foot. Like if I would have went, an inch, I would have stepped on it. I picked it up, I put it in my bundle, and I prayed with it for 10 years. And that's the kind of connections that you can develop on your own. There's no medicine man that's going to give you an eagle feather touch and all of a sudden you're going to know everything. It's how much you put into it. So go on the walk by yourself in nature and listen. Listen.
That's another thing I noticed. There was no rule book. Like there was no rule book of how to sit, how to conduct yourself inside, and they don't tell you until they see you stepping wrong, and then they'll be like, "Don't do that. Do it this way."
Absolutely.
And that's how you learn. You learn as you go.
Well, it makes you stronger.
Yeah.
Because the next time you go to the TP, you're not going to do that.
Exactly.
They don't need to tell you that. They only tell you once.
Yes.
And they'll continue to tell you.
Friendly, and they do it everything with love too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Compared to the Catholic Church, it was always regañadas, not in a good way. Another thing I learned was in Catholic, there was always the white savior. Not to forget the white savior; he's here to save you. But in the sweat lodge, in the teepee, it's you.
Yeah.
You're connecting with source within you.
Yeah, because we all have that connection. You got to understand how mysterious the heart is. Mm-hmm. The heart has electromagnetic connection with the earth. And the earth is huge. That's why you can meditate for hours and hours and pull wisdom out of the universe. Our ancestors were very precise people and they were very scientific rooted, but they didn't do it with the white lab coat and pins and glasses and ego and look at my book and look at how smart I am and, praise me.
Yes. And one thing I noticed too, not that you compare the two. So in the Western way of things, right? A lot of people listen to say Joe Rogan, and he promotes this idea of going into this I forgot what it's called, but you go into this, you lay down in this water, and then you shut it, and it's completely dark. Mm-hmm. And then you're breathing complete oxygen. It's supposed to help you levitate and focus and meditate. That's a sweat lodge. And then he also talks about
that's a ritual done by elite Illuminati kind of practices. But what it does is invoke visions because you're in water and you're conscious and your mind starts to get desperate.
Yes. But if you, and then he uses science, how science proves, he had doctors and scientists how it proves that the body really relaxes. All this science talk, right? Mm-hmm. But in the sweat lodge, you're doing the same thing because the water that they pour on the rocks, and then that water, just the steam, your body's in water. And if you're just steady, you lose that idea that you're actually in your body. And then the darkness of the sweat lodge inside, you forget where you're at. And I think it's there to remove ego, to not look at faces, just know you're in there with other souls, other spirits.
I can't explain it because that's really what woke me up, was that I was 18 years old and I had no idea what I was getting into. No one explained anything, nothing. I just all of a sudden was in front of a lodge.
And that's how they go about it too. I was there kind of worried a little bit, oh man, I've never done this before. And they don't explain nothing to you. They're just you're good. You'll be all right.
Yeah. Because when we're talking about the sweat lodge, we're talking about preschool. That's a preschool kind of thing, but it's powerful preschool. Like the first shaping of your language and understanding is in preschool. Yeah. So that's why sweat lodge is so important for people, I think. And I can say that after 20 years, it's so important on the road to decolonization. And guess what? You're going to find tons of them that suck. Some of them that are based in ego. What, you think you're going to walk into a sweat lodge, it's going to be the holiest of the holies? No, that's the point.
Many are appropriated. Just 2 blocks away, he was telling us how a white man's running some
there's
like
going to be
stuff.
one of those guys. Then there's going to be a super Chicano who puts 52 rocks in and wants to see people run out of the sweat lodge. And then you got a really humble one where it's very nice and lukewarm. And then you got another one. That's what I'm saying, is these houses, these teocalis, these places of energy, the person that's running it determines the energy. Right, so that determines the humility, the power.
And you could feel it. Like the brother that was leading that one, Carlos, he had just came from 3 days in the hill, from sacrificing 3 days in the sun, day and night.
Yeah, that's the vision quest.
Yes.
Now, the vision quest, you go up there by yourself so that you can witness these extraordinary acts, which is day turning into night, the sunrise, the moonrise, and all the animals around you, the night animals, the day animals. It's a powerful rooting self-imposed trauma.
Yes, that's how he explained it. Yeah. So he did the 3-day vision quest, then straight into a 15-hour TP meeting.
Yep.
And then the next day he led the sweat lodge.
Yep.
And he did a sweat lodge after the TP meeting, but I was done. I was like, I couldn't do it one after another. So I waited for the next day one.
Yeah.
So I did it the next day.
And that's good that you're pacing yourself. This is not, a lot of people think that, we got to get a really good understanding what a Hollywood warrior is. A Hollywood warrior wants to be the toughest, the meanest, the one that could handle the hottest, the one that could do ayahuasca 90 days straight. To me, that's not. The more medicine you take, the more you're dealing with yourself, right? Because we don't need anything. We are very brilliant in our own self. Like, that's why I'm a fan of Jag and his sobriety road. I'm not that. I'm opposite of that. I want to know what my ancestors did and what they believed in and what plants connected them to what they are. And when I went to go take Ikuri and I stayed up, that was a beautiful experience, and I still am learning from it.
I'm somewhere in between because I've seen how bad alcohol has damaged our people. In fact, I was listening to since a lot of people like science, the star dude, the guy that talks about comics and all that, comets. I can't remember. Neil deGrasse Tyson. He said that he found out that Asians and natives were not developed to digest alcohol because we didn't have it in our ancestry before Europeans came over. So that's why white people can drink more than us. And a lot of us want to play Olympics, but they can do that because they've been drinking it for thousands of years.
I mean, alcohol was more an Egyptian thing to keep their caste system going. You know what I mean? Because that's where like the first beer came from.
And they found it by accident. They found it in the Dark Ages to save them because they were all dying from bacteria. And it was through natural fermentation that saved them. Until they found out like, oh, this is why we can drink this and not regular water.
Absolutely.
So,
but I guess to get back to the topic of wabu and people claiming
wobbles,
we're in a very peculiar time, guys. We're using corporate platforms to express ourselves, and like Heron pointed out, they're going to use algorithms against each other. They're going to use algorithms against you, and their job is to upset you and keep you distracted. But switch the energy to getting connected. So here's an exercise. When you get upset about reading about these egocentric people who say and claim truth, put your hand on the earth, because you're truth and so is the earth, and it'll communicate truth in a very humble way. That's what I think we should do instead of getting on Instagram and proving our points and making people upset. I don't want to be in the state of upset. I want to be in the state of building. I want to be in the state of creativity. I want to be in the state of community. I want to be in the state of breaking my colonial perspective. That's my mission on earth. I'm doing these podcasts because my kids just don't jump on the boat with me. And I'm not going to force them, but I'm going to leave bricks, a pathway.
You know how they say it all starts at home? Yeah. I'm a true believer of that. But not only at home when we're thinking in the physical, right? Like your children, your wife, but at home here. Yeah. At home here. Yeah. You know, and a lot of us, even if we're fighting the good fight, how you go about fighting that good fight does not determine if you're just fighting the good fight, does not determine you're a good fighter. It's how you go about fighting that good fight. Because you could be fighting a good fight, but then you're aggressive, you're ego-driven, you're lost, you're battling your own shadows. Then you're going to project all of that.
Now, I'm glad that you talked about those particular things and put in that place, because I've been recently reading Geronimo's book, right? And it's such a sad story because the white guy's writing it in the perspective of a white colonizer and putting Geronimo as this bandit who's just on war parties and enjoying the war party and this and that. But the first story in the book is how they killed his wife and kids. And at that moment, he became a suicide Indian. That's the way I saw it. Where he wanted to go to each battle. Where there was a story where he was fighting the Spanish soldiers and that he stood up 10 feet away from them and fired at the general and shot the general and killed the general and stood there.
Yeah.
And waited for all the bullets, but they were such a bad aim, none of them hit him. But that to me was a suicide mission. Like, he wanted to die. The pain of losing his family was so immense.
Not only that, you become scary. Like, he probably was like, had no fear of death.
Absolutely.
And the enemy was scared of that. Like, oh shit, this guy's not scared to die. And that made them miss. Because that reminds me of a younger me. I had so much pain due to my upbringing. I was in the street every day ready to be my last day. So I had no fear in me. And that's a very dangerous thing. Not being, when you don't have guidance, you don't have direction. Because I faced a lot of guns and I had no fear. I was like, go for it.
Yeah.
In my head, it was like, take away the pain if you want, And that would scare the other individual. Like, holy shit, this was crazier than I am. And then they would just,
And bounce. I can imagine, wow. I can imagine Geronimo and the state of mind that he was in and how painful it was to lose his wife and his children and his way of life. It wasn't just that. That's genocide. That's the consequence of sending in soldiers and creating this and no longer letting them live the way they're used to living. He didn't only lose his family and his children, he lost his way of life. And he refused to go to a reservation. He refused to go to a concentration camp. And he fought them straight up, standing up 10 feet away from people who have guns, just him, and shot that general. Boom. Knocked him down, just waited to die. Waited, went, okay, these guys are going to get me, and none of them got him. None of them. So he runs into it, and his horse gets away from him, right? And he said that he waited for it to be clear, he whistled, and his horse came back to him. So not only did he shoot the fucking general 10 feet away from him, but he fucking ran away and called his horse and rode off.
Yeah.
That is who we all need to be. Every single one of us has the ability, but don't let trauma make you that person. Make yourself that person because you have a gift called life. You have intelligence, you have heart, you have empathy, you have wisdom that goes back thousands of years. And I'll continue to say that till the day I die.
So Zero, going back to the mural.
Absolutely.
Right? Are you for removing the Olmec mural, or are you for maintaining the mural?
I'm either way. I'm not.
Right?
Yeah, because
that's what everyone's up in arms for, right?
I guess people want to make statements and go, look, I have authority over you. Even if we did, like, look at how fucked up is it going to be for us to be like, no, take this shit down. Let them believe whatever they want to believe, because it's all superficial anyways. Right? Unless you're gonna go into the lodge, unless you're gonna go into the Vision Quest, unless you're gonna go into the Sundance, unless you're gonna go into touching the floor and saying, "Hey, man, I want this deep connection with you, Mother Earth." I don't care if people laugh at me. I don't care if people think it's weird that I'm sitting alone on top of this mountain by myself and just taking you in. No one can take that away from you, so the mural is irrelevant. Okay, you know what I say to that? Let's have a battle like back in the day, like back in the graffiti days, right? You got that mural? All right, well, fuck, let's all the Chicanos and all the Mexican artists put together a mural that tells the truth. This is our truth.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up.
How do you feel about that, Heron?
So, if I may, right, this is my opinion. There's a lot of murals that did have Aztec, Olmec, Maya, Tolteca in them. And they were forgotten by the community. No one cared for them. They're old. A lot of them are still in Boyle Heights and East LA and Highland Park. But a lot of them got taken down because no one maintained them. No one cared for them. But the minute that we see someone else trying to take something that's ours, right? Oh, we're going to fight to the end of it. In the corner, there's a señora, that looks Olmec, selling flores, selling flowers. And are you supporting her? Are you supporting her to put food on the table for her little Olmec children? Or are you just so pissed at black people for taking something that you think belongs to you?
And that's what, that page, Fools Gone Wild, is so popular for. Net banging.
Shout out to Fools Gone Wild.
Shout out to Fools Gone Wild.
They do put some good stuff here.
No, it's hilarious. I love it. It's a particular. It's called dark humor. You know, you're making fun of yourself and your community. That's fine. It's not. There's no travesty happening there. You know what I mean? And they also do feature people who are good.
Yes.
Who are doing stuff in their community. So shout out to them for doing that.
The higher the socks, the downer the food.
Absolutely.
Also want to give a shout out to Yvette on the chat. She said that you cannot conquer those who are not afraid.
Absolutely not. Yeah, and that fear has to be your own trust and your own connection with whatever it is, your community, your environment, the nature, the animals, everything. It's really, that's what I realized in my road, is that I kept going to Sweat Lodge, I kept going to ceremonies, I kept going and doing the things that I needed to do, and it all led to the same thing, Heron. You're responsible for learning. Yes. As much as you get into this lodge, when you leave this lodge, you're responsible for whatever you learn. No one's going to go, oh, hey, there's a test next week about what you learned. You have to go away with what you learned. How tough your spirit had to struggle through that Sweat Lodge to get the message that you needed to give to the people. I was lucky. I had a very good sweat leader, and I had a lot of messages come to me, and that's how Jaguar Prophecies was made, Evolution was made. All these records that we made, and the mixtape, and all my lyrics come from a plethora of sources that I combine into one, and I call it poetry or music. So everyone can do that in their own way, whether it be painting, whether it be poetry, whether it be just being a good mom, being a good dad, putting up a good business, being a part of your community, contributing in any single way. That's how you do it.
And that's organizing yourself, right? Organizing your thoughts, organizing your feelings, organizing yourself. Now, back to the mural. This is my perspective. I think it's important that when children are walking and they see reflections of themselves and they are being told the truth, opposed to misconceptions, misleading information, misinformation, right? So due to the children that may walk and see that and think, oh, that's a black person, and not know that comes from their own people, I believe it should be taken down. Now, how we go about that is what's going to determine who we are as a people, right? So the petition is great, but what's even better is showing up in person and having a diplomatic and intellectual argument of why it's bad, of why it's erasing us, understanding that they have their battles and they have their own dark history, but also letting them know that by doing this, you're erasing us from our history, and this is darkness put upon us.
The only problem I have with it is that we're in the age of sensationalizing everything, right? And I feel like those organizers are doing this just to sensationalize, just to get people riled up, and instead of creating a clever solution for a non-issue, there are many other issues that we can come together. Kids in cages, just anything. The pandemic. Yeah. I mean, there's some serious serious things happening, and we're stuck on a mural. Like, it was almost like, what else were we stuck on?
There's no true life in that mural, by the way. There's real lives in kids in cages. Those are real souls, real spirits, and many of them are Olmec, many of them are Maya, many of them are Mexica. You know, the list goes on. Those, and how many of the Wabo fighters are fighting kids in cages?
Right.
Not too many. I haven't really seen too many posts on kids in cages.
It's
trending.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, look at we you know, the sensationalism of TikTok, right? Do a clever video and enough people will react to it, right? And if it's, you know, what did they say, Armando? They say any publicity
is good publicity.
Any good publicity is good publicity. So
Easy E.
Yeah, exactly. So it's you know, that's what it is. And I just don't want to see a very intelligent community like LA Natives or any other organization get wrapped into a non-issue, man. You don't have proof. Let's say it right here on LA Natives. Africans are not, they're not the Olmec. The Olmec are the Olmec. We have our own creation stories. We have our own version of our way of life. You know, the Mayas have theirs. The Mexica have theirs, right?
And again, that's your opinion, right? Because not one person knows it all.
Exactly. I don't want to know it all. There's no need to know it all. I'm more into how well you're connected. What is your expression? How do you relate with people?
So head on. Was this a fresh mural,
No,
or did they just?
It actually has been there for a while.
Right. So they just added a Olmec's head?
The Olmec's head's been there for a while too. So that's a pretty older mural. I don't know when it went up, but it's been up there for a while. Now the one in Texas was new. That one caught all the attention, and that started the movement of like, yo, stop, remove that. But not only was it a mural in Texas, there's actual literature being taught in school.
I mean, when you say Texas, it's like they had a book. They had a book that said, "Fucking, we offered free trips to the New World to Africans," and the Africans said, "Yeah, I'll take seat number 7."
Yeah, but we do have to also be mindful of how far that of that academia can reach. I just had somebody DM me the other day that in Compton, in Centennial High School, his world history teacher told him in 2009 that the Olmecs are Africans. And he remembered, he's like, yo, I was under the impression the whole time. I'm like, nah, brother. That's why you got to research yourself.
But, you know, that again, we're talking about books that are read in the city, and you read the book, so now you know it, and now you're African, and you're Olmec, and you're the original, and that's all you did. That's all you did. You didn't do anything to contribute to that. Right. You didn't do anything to let people know what the culture contribution is. What is the culture? I want to ask these wobbles, why are they the Olmec? Why are they the Olmec?
What did they do as the
Olmec?
Olmec?
What did they do to call themselves the Olmec? Since you're African, since you know the story of the Olmec, why?
And they go based on all like superficial evidence. Like if you look at the hair, it looks like
I'm not talking about physical appearance. I'm talking about their story.
They have no story.
Then you don't know what the Olmec is. I do.
Right.
They were the first ones to think that the center of time was the Northern Lights, right? So then you flash forward into the Popol Vuh, and the Popol Vuh, the hero twins destroy Seven Macaw, the false god, the false center. There's a story to this. If you don't know it, then you're not Olmec. I don't think so. That's their culture. Don't just go superficial like, oh, look, you have my lips and you have my cranial size or whatever the fuck it is.
And that's because they're going on vision, right? And back to what you said earlier, which I think now is ringing more sense. It took a while. It had to sit there. When you said, let's grab all the Chicanos artists and let's create more, like battle. The only reason these Olmec heads are popping up and grabbing people's attention is because there's a lack of art representing us by us, right? So then you see that.
And there's some pretty big name this story about the Olmecs being black and all that stuff hasn't been new. This is a new thing. There's been archaeologists that have written books who have credibility
before Columbus
through the institutions set up by big oil.
Yes.
Let's be very fucking clear about that. All you anthropologists, you're getting degrees from fucking either Oxford or
research funding. It's called research funding.
Yeah, from the Carnegies and the Rockefellers, all that bullshit. So don't fucking we know where your source of.
And
of
by the way,
information
if
is
they
coming
go
from.
against the research they want to push, the funding gets cut.
Right. So all they have to do is go, oh, look, I have credibility. I've written a book. And look, I'm saying that they're black because look at their lips, because look at, and you don't know none of their creation stories. You know none of their reasons of their math and why we advanced as a Mesoamerican culture due to it, from it. You know, that's the one thing I know about Egyptian culture is that they didn't have the sequences of time mapped out the way we did. And I'm not saying that it's better or less, because maybe they have a different concept, like a different understanding of time and reality. But ours is pretty long.
Yeah.
26,000 years? I haven't seen 26,000 year documentation on any side of Egyptian culture.
Again, Graham Hancock, he first studied Egyptians for 20 years. He lived over there and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came over and studied over here. When he came over here, he was astonished.
Yeah, because
this is after 20 years of being in Egypt, studying
because it's
Egypt.
older. It's older. We are older.
He lived, I think, a whole year with Huichol tribe, just living with them. And then he went, he traveled all of it. He's a really well-researched guy, and mainstream media, mainstream archaeologists, they're all against him because he wants to change history. He wants to change the way white people tell history.
Well, he wants to change the narrative that white supremacy was the only intelligent being to cross an ocean, to develop language, to develop books, to develop anything, right? He wants to debunk that, and that's against white supremacy. So they're not going to let him do that.
At the very least, he's challenging them. Like, hey, take another look. Maybe you're not right.
They're not right. They're not right. Come on, dude. They come from Roman sources, bro. All those Roman sources are off because they're based on ego.
Yeah.
When your calendar is based on just because you are you, you've lost it, my brother. You lost the whole concept of life. Our ancestors, I don't like to, again, also too, I'm not romanticizing our ancestry because, we have our own issues and we have our own thing.
There's always going to be duality, light and dark, always, everywhere.
I'm not sure about light and dark. I just know that life happens and jealousy happens and, people feel like they can do things to other people that there was bad people in our time too. Don't think that there wasn't, but we dealt with it very differently.
Yes.
And we were very truthful, even if we're bad. So in other words, if you said, hey man, did you sleep with my wife? I'll say yes. And we dealt with it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's no need to be like, oh shit, no. Well, why did, and the lies didn't need to be in play. And that's why people can misunderstand us as being violent, but it's not really being violent, man. If you fucking slept with my wife, we're having a problem.
Unless it was a polygamy tribe, because there were polygamy tribes.
But I use that as an example.
Right.
Or did you fucking slap the shit out of my kid?
Right.
Yeah,
that was
I did.
sacred. That's
right.
The colonizer brought that over.
But you know what I mean? As an example, they didn't avoid the truth.
For sure.
They didn't. They weren't. I don't think they were that kind of people.
Well, like think of the Mexica. If they were found intoxicated in public, they would cut their hair off. Like you're a baby again. You have to regrow your hair because you need to. Everybody needs to see that you fucked up.
Yeah. There was consequences and there was hierarchies and all that stuff. So, but those disciplines were there. And I'm not sure if what I'm trying to do here with LA Natives is to recreate, to start right where they left off, because that's impossible. What happened, and it's over is over.
Right.
It's our chance now to take all of life's history and be the humble timekeepers and caretakers of this from the wisdoms that were given to us by our old grandfathers.
The way I see it, in different words, but exactly what you just said, is aligning with the frequency of our ancestors and maneuvering and navigating today's life, but with the frequency of our hearts and our minds with our ancestors and not the colonizer.
And their brilliance, and their concepts, and their theories, and their understandings of time. Those are the main tools. Look, if you want to decolonize, if you want to get to a state where you feel free or you have more of a independent or sovereign understanding, then we have to break colonial perspective and really study the way the 20-day signs work and what energies are there. And if we can do that consistently, as well as add the nutrition that they gave us, which is spirulina, maca, chia, cacao, hemp, all those beautiful, beautiful high mineral foods that control your appetite. So now you're adding research and wisdom, diet, and you add prayer and ceremony. And then you add like-minded individuals like we had at Superman, like we had at the LA Natives, and like we're going to have at Dreezus. This is a community, bro. This is a vibe. This is a scene. We want to, you know, me and Armando have been so thankful to our community that we're going to throw a private party. We're going to throw a private party for our community, and we're going to have vegan food. We're going to introduce you to very amazing vegan chefs. And the first 50 people that come to the party, we're going to eat, and we're going to have a nice little chat. Me and Armando, Heron will be here, Armando will be here, and we'll have a nice little chat. And this is kind of our thank you to making LA Natives what it's been and what it's going to be and how we're doing, man.
I want to thank all the fans that be DMing me on my personal Instagram and thanking me for, you know, co-producing this podcast with you, Zero.
Well, right? I
even got messages on my personal DM on people speaking on Heron. You know, a lot of people are like, "Yo, man, that dude's dope." You know, we want to hear more from him.
Absolutely, and
you know, in sub 1.
So, what's the chat saying now? Is it?
So they're talking about the mural in Boyle Heights. Is one of the ones I was talking about. It's one of the largest one, if not in the world. So it gives you the whole history. Have you ever seen it? It's in Roosevelt High School. So it gives you the our whole history.
I'm sure I have.
It's dope because it goes around the block, and it tells you like first the Olmecs, you know, then came the Maya, then came the Tolteca, then came the Mexica, and it gives you like the sequence and how people looked and how people were evolving, and then it gives you today's world. It even goes through Zapata, I think, and it gives you the Chicano movement of the 70s, and then it gives you today's world of how we're all chained up now. We're all lost our identity, and it goes into black and white.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Right there, head on. We want to make a statement against the Wabus. We want to be claiming our ancestry. Then you go paint a better mural than them.
Yes.
Right.
And this is how I see it. Stop falling into cancel culture.
Yeah. That's over, dude. That's the main tool. If we continue with this cancel culture, forget about building with each other. Forget about a community that does understand its place on this earth and has the right to eat whatever it wants to eat and take care of itself the way it wants to take care of itself, using thousands of years of wisdom that our ancestors gave us. Don't be so fucking narcissistic thinking you have the fucking answer to everything, you corporate bastard. You don't know shit.
That's a colonized mentality.
That's a colonizer motherfucker, man. You pharmaceutical tyrant. I'm sorry, I had to say it because it's getting to that level where, dude, the most disappointing thing I heard is when you said your dad and you have an issue. And I understand his love and I understand his concern. But man, dividing family?
Right.
Over propaganda? Come on, it's CNN, bro. CNN is the most corrupted. You shouldn't even you should call it like, remember Current Affair? Remember that fucking gossip TMZ bullshit?
You know, I'm in the entertainment business and in the influencing game. It's simply propaganda pushed by the mainstream media. That's all it is.
Now, wait, let me stop.
I'm not a big fan of Tim Pool, but I think he was on Joe Rogan the other day and he just said, I'm just shocked that so many people are falling for this shit.
Well, look, okay, but let me take it back a step. Remember, after Nazi Germany, the scientists came to the US. So it's not like nothing's happening. People are getting sick, Armando. People are getting sick. And people have to learn. This is the decision that I made. And by no means am I pushing this on anything.
People are getting sick and they have to figure out a way to make money off of it.
Well, people are getting sick and you have to figure out a way to deal with it. The healthier you are, the more motivated you are, the more research you do, you'll see that you don't need a pharmaceutical tyranny to mandate something that you just do not feel comfortable. Dude, it's like raping. And I hate to, by no means, I know how sensitive our woman nation is. And I'm not trying to minimize your pain when you came to that because no one will be more of an advocate over that than me. But when you're jabbing something forcefully into your skin, that's like jamming something forcefully into a woman, and that's not cool. Or a man.
Well, did you guys hear just recently New York the city of New York, as of August 16th, is not going to allow anyone to walk into a gym, I believe a grocery store, and any entertainment venues unless you prove that you're vaccinated.
Okay, but look, people don't understand. It's the same thing like that.
So
that
you
Rappaport.
can't eat, you can't live, you can't make a living.
Now, here's my point of view, because I have my own point of view, right? I think everyone, back to sovereignty, I think everyone should be sovereign enough to make their own choice.
Yes.
So also not shaming anyone who is vaccinated or had to for whatever personal reason, maybe outside of them.
Absolutely.
You know, not shaming on anyone or not shaming anyone who says, I'm not going to do it point blank. That is your sovereign choice. And that's what reclaiming native, indigenous identity means. Having your sovereign choice that no one can tell you, inject this into your body. It's your choice.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't do it for the whole time I was out there protesting. I didn't do it. Not once did I get sick. And I was around thousands of people. It wasn't until recently that I had to do it for my grandma's sake. So if I wanted to be around her, I had to do it.
That's where people, that's a very sad place to be because, okay, CNN's telling you, you can't go to the grocery store unless you get vaccinated.
Right.
You can't go to the store. You can't go to the movies. You can't go do this, that, and the other, right? You can't do anything. And then you have Rappaport telling you that Anthony Fauci is telling you that the vaccinated people are the people spreading the sickness.
Yes. Here's the reason I did it. They had her 81st birthday celebration. Now, the people holding my family, they were pretty anal about it. And they're like, you got to get checked. You got to have a test and vaccinated, right? Now, I didn't want to be the one, if in the party something breaks out, right? Someone is infected and it breaks out and they do a history, well, who wasn't vaccinated? I don't want to be that name. I don't want to be that name. I was like, that's why I did it. Well, just because I didn't want to be that name.
I feel that pressure head on because honestly, my aunts and uncles are keeping my grandparents hostage right now, bro.
Yeah, that's how it was.
But
that's how it is, bro.
Here's the difference, though. Let me plant this seed in both of you guys. This is me, right? I have wisdom of superfoods. I have wisdom of natural sources of healing, right? And by no means, man, don't take this word from me because I could be gone tomorrow and it'll be because whatever it is. I'm not afraid of it though.
Yeah.
If you're going to take me out with a fucking invisible whatever it is or whatever you're trying to put it out, then fuck it, then I needed to go. Yeah. But before I go, can I take this tea that my mother prepared for me? Can I use this bee pollen that nature prepared for me?
Yeah.
Can I use the superfoods that my ancestors engineered for hundreds of thousands of years or for thousands of years? Can I use that before I take your stupid pharmaceutical tyranny poison? What is it? It bypasses the natural response of the cell. I've never met a human body that people that have that in their blood are called sick people, right?
And I hate the term misinformation. Everyone's throwing that term so loosely. Misinformation. What the fuck is misinformation?
That's not
contradicting.
That's not misinformation. I'm telling you exactly what mRNA does. It has the cell, and here comes the mRNA, and then the cell goes, "Get this shit off of me," and then the nanotechnology bypasses the natural response of the cell to penetrate the cell. That is not...
It is contradicting.
That's not healing. Right. That's not safe. That's not anything but, hey, if you feel like science is at the level where it could cure humanity from a sickness that never really existed, if we're dealing with anything, it's in the air, man. They're pumping it out there. I'm not conspiracy theorist, but they're trying to get you sick.
They still are pressing the cure to cancer, even though there's many. There's many cures to cancer, and they're still pressing that.
It's just like, it doesn't make sense where CNN's telling you, go get vaccinated, and Anthony Fauci's telling you, yeah, the people that are vaccinated, they're the ones that are spreading it the most. Here's why. Because in science, you cannot transfer a virus from a bat into a human. It takes so long for that sickness to transfer into a human form so that you can start being affected by it. So it went from a talk from, oh, someone ate bat soup in China to Wuhan labs, and then it stopped at Wuhan labs. Well, if it stopped at Wuhan labs, that was man-made. And we're dealing with something that's man-made. But you know what? Mother Earth made us. Mother Earth has made algae and evolved algae for millions of years. The plant kingdom has been here before humans. Our Mother Earth loves us. And so that's what I choose to fight with.
I want to shout out everyone that's tuning in. The chat is absolutely bonkers.
And I don't mean to disrespect anybody on LA Natives. I love you. If you feel that you made the best choice for your health, then I respect and love you. But I have a different approach. Look, Heron was being ostracized. You're being ostracized because you're not making the decision. But when someone gets sick in my family, if anyone got sick in my family, I'll be the first one in the room. I'll be the first one introducing them. I won't be like, stay away from me. I won't be like, no, I have the answer for your sickness. And if not, well, let me get sick too. And then we both are sick and we're both fucking heal each other. Right? What fucking mind fuck are we in where this shit, you're like family members, like, fuck it. You know, I mean, Brandon was telling me something about like that he hasn't seen his grandparent in a very long time because of this.
Yeah.
I'm not talking shit, man. I'm just trying to get humans back to being human.
Yeah.
And this
here's the funny part.
And this is an attack to all the artists directly.
Yeah.
If you're an artist and they're telling you can't rock a stage unless you're vaxxed, you know, you're taking money away from hundreds of thousands of people.
Well, it's taking away the human connection. You know, it's putting us in boxes, you know. It's really putting us in boxes. But here's the funny part. So my grandma's been dealing with a lot of pain, right? She's old and she has knee pain and she has all these inflammation pain. So I know CBD is one of the best medicines for inflammation. So I took her some shout out to Sub One. I got it from Sub One. I took her some CBD medicine, some oil drops, some rub. I think something you rub on you from Sub One. I took her a candle that she can like meditate to and just chill. As soon as I put the drops in her, I'm like, hey, let me put this drops in you. And she's like, 20 minutes later, I'm like, how you feel? And she was worried about getting high. I'm like, no, it's not going to get you high. It's just going to relax you. And she's like, I feel relaxed. And then hours later, she was wondering like, no sé por qué no me siento cansada. Ya para esta hora ya estoy acuestada, you know? And she's like, I don't know why I don't feel tired. By this time, I'm already done. And I'm like, oh, it must be the drops kicking in. She's like, eso es. And then she can't stop telling everybody how she loves marijuana now.
Well,
she loves it.
No, I mean, it's reintroduced to us.
Yes.
You know, because we didn't have pain medicine. We had our own herbal remedies.
Peyote too.
You know, all those things. You know, I read an article once written by an individual who felt like, you know, he had a good view of the world scope. And he said that everyone has something to contribute. Africa has timber and gold and diamonds, and Eastern Europe has this, that, and the other. And you know, England has the finance markets, and then the US has the military, and Mexico. They always say that Mexico doesn't have anything to contribute.
So much medicine.
But it has so much wisdom on herbs. It has so much wisdom on... Dr. Sebi was trained by a Mexican herbalist.
He was healed first.
He was healed by a Mexican herbalist or an Indio who understood plant medicine. Plant medicine is in our blood.
Yes.
Plant medicine has... I mean, when you grow up poor... and you got a stomach ache or you got some sort of a thing, boom, they go to the garden.
Yeah.
This is what I got, you know? And that's what really helped me connect to indigenous understandings and indigenous perspectives because I saw my grandmother do it right in front of my eyes, you know? And that's the innate proof that you need. You don't need history.com or whatever the fuck, ancestry.com. You don't need them. You need the fire inside of you to go search and find. And whatever systems and whatever tribes you find, good, great. Something more to add to.
And that's why we need to decolonize on all frontiers. Our diet, we need to decolonize. We need to go back to the natural, you know, because it's all this colonized food that got us sick in the first place. You know, all the diabetes, all the high blood pressure, it's all the colonized food.
Well, you know, the reason I got into superfoods is because my grandmother died when she was 55 years old. She shouldn't have died at 55. Not from diabetes, not from obesity, not from That was such a painful thing to lose her. And I devoured not eating red meat most of my life, to vegetarian, to now plant-based, to now superfood, intermittent fasting. You know, I want to be here for my grandchildren. I want to pass down all the love that I have inside my heart, all my struggle and survival of genocide. I need to pass it on to them.
Well, you know, since we're building a tribe, here's an idea. How about we start challenging our tribe to be more healthy, to look at what they're eating. Research what they're eating, first of all. Know what you're eating, so that you're not just like following what others are telling you. Like, research what you're eating, find out what it does to your body, to your anatomy, to your spirit. You know, that way you can start letting them know, like, hey, try this, see how this reacts to your body, because everybody's body is different, right? And some people's gonna be like, man, this is like steroids for me, man. I'm at the gym pumping up, you know. And then for others to be like, I just feel better, I feel more relaxed, right? You know?
And the perfect start to begin that journey is to take some Malanani superfoods,
absolutely,
especially the dry mix.
And because
I was on that formula, and man, it did it.
How did it hit you?
It hit me hard. You know, it was a slow transition, right, Zero?
Yeah.
But once you're a week or two in, bro, it's just like eating ice cream.
Yeah. It you know, you get used to the energy. The thing is to get used to the energy.
I love the green powder.
Yeah. That one has the spirulina, which is what our ancestors were known for. This whole the blue on this flag represents that spirulina, because we were the nation that carried the nutritious food, right? That food you can walk 50 miles eating that food. You know, you could run 25 miles, 10 miles, 5 miles. I could run 3 miles solid. I'm 47 years old.
That's nice.
You know, and I could do it. Like, you told me to run 3 miles, I could do it. You know, so, and it starts with the nutrition. And I have some good news about that.
What's that?
We got our permits for Malenali Superfoods, so we're going to be opening up our storefront, 4528 Whittier Boulevard. Follow us on Instagram, because we're going to be doing a soft opening and then doing a grand opening, and then creating our plant-based community that I want to introduce people to plant-based foods.
That's absolutely groundbreaking. Yeah, especially to do it in East LA, right?
And in East LA, where I grew up,
Boulevard?
right where my grandmother bought her house,
nice.
right where I'm blocks away from my grandmother's house.
Here's perspective on that. Now, we can sit at Starbucks drinking the white man's coffee all day long and talking about the wobbles and the hot tips, and yeah, we need to go take down the mural. But look where you're sitting at, look who you're contributing to, look whose dollar you're recycling instead of your own community, building your own community. What's stronger, going on social media and talking shit about this mural, or building your community, building your tribe?
Absolutely.
Recycling the finances and the well-being of your tribe and your members, and educating the young, you know?
Absolutely. And creating a community, really my thing is to create a community that challenges white supremacy with confidence, right?
With our own internal knowledge of our ancestors.
Right, but confidence. It takes confidence.
Yes,
it takes confidence. And I don't mean to be rude or disrespectful to others. I mean, be confident. Be confident that you come from a place that's beautiful, that had a relationship with Earth.
I think the question is, how do you be confident? Right, for those listening, but how?
Yeah.
You got to do the work.
Yeah,
you got to do the work.
It
doesn't come short.
Well, when you go to the teepees and you go to the lodges, you are the one that has to sit up.
Yes.
They don't ask they don't ask someone else to ask you. They ask you directly. Hey, if you're going to participate in this, be aware.
You're the one that has to tell yourself not to quit on yourself when it gets too hot.
Yeah.
You're the one that has to tell yourself not to walk outside during those 15 hours until you're given permission.
Absolutely.
Because you can't interrupt ceremony.
Because how much time do we have, Armando?
We have a good 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay. You see, I like this. I like introducing head on to our podcast. It was super interactive, and you want to check in with the chat before we start wrapping it up, because we only have about 10 minutes.
Super interactive, guys. Jam-packed show.
And if anything's relevant or prudent, let me know, and I'll stop talking. But the journey back home is a long journey. It took 500 years to put us in this place. And I'm not saying it's going to take us 500 years to get back to that place, but that place don't exist no more. It's our job to rebuild that place, whatever it is. you got to understand that the Mexica were very brilliant people and they had good relationships with other tribes. A lot of people like to say that they conquered other tribes, but I just don't see how conquering from the heart means physically conquering you. I think it comes with philosophy. I think it comes with wisdom. I think it comes with engineering. I think it comes with resources. But our tribe, our people, took a 240-year walk to find the place where the sun meets the earth. The sun being the eagle, the earth being the nopal. That was a symbol to us. And we built there. And we created chinampas. And we created an understanding. We created the Tonal Machiot, the sacred calendar. Now, there's a lot of stories that we don't even know, like the long-headed cranials or the giants. White supremacy hasn't let us read that story. So that's why I'm saying we need to challenge it. We need to challenge white supremacy confidently, humble, connected with the earth, because your source is the earth. Your source of power is the earth. How much wisdom, how much you derive from her, how much you eat of her, how much you implement her in your defense of her, maybe not even defense, but in your contribution to keep her clean. Because she's the power source. How's it looking in there?
Actually, there's a limit of, I didn't know there was a limit of characters I can type in. I was responding back to one of the things, I think somebody called me out on saying white men's coffee yet. I lost them. White men's coffee yet. He was talking about something about them having control in Central America over the coffee. What I mean by that is that, first of all, coffee, it originated in Africa, for those that don't know. It was taken by the colonizer, I believe the Spanish, and then it was brought over to Brazil, and that's why a lot of people think it came from Brazil. But no, it came from Africa. Indonesia, no, sorry. I can't remember the country right now. But anyways, so coffee originated from Africa, but Starbucks is a white entity corporation. So when we're spending our dollars there, that's what I mean by that. There's Café Rebelde, there's Café Zapatista, there's a bunch of cafes of our people, you know, that's harvested by our people and provided by our people that we can contribute to. So what I mean by that, why I brought that up, is because you now have this food available to our people, and it's by our people. And it's the food that our ancestors was eating. We can do this instead of, like, say, Herbalife or, you know, another, name any white entity corporation. The idea is to circulate the economy within our own tribe so that we can lift out of the shadows. That's why we're not being seen, because we're in the shadows economically.
You know, that's a good answer. And I know what you meant.
That is well said.
I know what he meant.
Absolutely.
I know what he meant when he said that when you go sit down at Starbucks. I think we're creatures of habitual. Like, we do things habitually. So if you have your favorite drink at Starbucks, or if you're used to going to Starbucks, you're a creature of habit. And what Head On was trying to say was challenge that habit and maybe put that habit towards a brown-owned business. There's many other coffee shops that are in your neighborhood that are owned by brown people or whatever. It doesn't matter. But what I want to point out is, though, let's not be critical of people's every single word. I mean, obviously we're live and we're going off the top of the dome, and I want to create a family that says, hey, Head On, how about this?
Yes.
You know, how about this? Instead of going, oh, you're calling me out or you're offending me. Let's really focus in, tribe, on learning the 4 agreements, not because it's the only wisdom out there, but it deals with ego in the best way. And I'm telling this to, like, people who I feel like are either intro into this and all that stuff, because the philosophy has a lot to do with the ritual, with the ceremony, with the sites, with the planets, with the stars. You know, you don't learn that overnight, and you don't learn that in one day. So let's not be critical of our community. Let's love our community. Let's respect our community. We're the only people that we have And here we are trying to maybe be this.
That same person calling me out, Yvette is in the chat, and she actually provides Café Zapatista that supports, I think, a certain amount of people in villages and rural Mexico. So there you go. Support her. If you're challenging me with my talk, then go ahead and put your money where your palabra is.
I mean, I don't know if that's what I'm trying to say, is that I don't think we should be challenging each other.
I think challenging is good, though. It's healthy, right? Because if you say something, right, like the mural, are you for it or against it? If someone challenges you, well, wait, if you don't care if it's there, but what about the little kids that pass by, like me, right? That's my point of view. What about the little kids that see it and, like, they grow up thinking, that perception, which is false?
Well, I mean, if I did my job as a creative, as an artist, that little kid that's walking by that mural will compare it to the best mural collectively done by our people with love, humility, and not calling absolute truth. I've never met indigenous elders that called absolute truth, and their truth was humble, right? I remember seeing Danny John, who is the land that my sweat leader goes to go do Sundance, and Danny John and Levine did something amazing. I learned from the elders that don't say anything, and so they came over by the lodge, they walked around the lodge, they went straight up to the fire, didn't say hi to anybody, they didn't talk to anybody, they went and said hi to that fire first.
Yes.
And they went and he got so close to that fire, put his hand on that fire, and it wasn't like a big fire, it was like coals. Like the sweat lodge was over, and he went to go check on his student who is running sweat lodges, which is Uncle Al, Peace and Dignity Run. Shout out to my uncle. But he went and put his hand. He didn't say one word to anybody. He walked around the lodge, and we're all kind of just dusting off our stuff and talking to Uncle. And he goes and he touches that fire and doesn't say anything to anybody, and just feels the heat of it. Now he knew how to address us. Because the fire told him what we all went through.
There's knowledge in fire.
That's what I'm talking about. And we all can contribute to our own inner medicine man, shaman, whatever you want to call yourself, or wisdom keeper. You are your own wisdom keeper.
Yes.
Don't give anybody that power.
Yes.
I learned it from him, or he guided me, or he knew more than me. He may have had a head start. He may have read more books than you. But man, if your heart is in the right place, man, just like that, the wisdom comes.
Yes. It flows. It's frequency. And
Absolutely.
it flows. Like John Trudell said, feel less, think more.
Absolutely.
Because if you feel that someone is right, you're just going to follow that blindly. But if you think for yourself, if you add critical thinking, then you're going to do your own research and find out if it is true to you or not.
Absolutely.
And something, to the live chat again, thanks everybody. And I do think it's healthy to challenge each other as long as we do it respectfully, like our ancestors did. And that tunes up our thinking too. It's like you're making the knife sharper, by questioning your theory and your perception. Someone said, I thought Starbucks was owned by Jews. I might be wrong. Well, what is Israel? Israel is white supremacy. So Jews are white.
Yeah.
They're just looked upon differently by the Saxo Anglos, which are English. So that's why you got to educate yourself. There's different type of white people. There's Caucasians.
All right.
Germans are different. Russians are different.
I think, since we are a tribe, since we are LA natives, since we do come consistently here and we share our opinions with each other, I think that's the challenge head on. I think the challenge is to go find a brown-owned something and try something new.
Yes.
Maybe you might like a drink that they make. I know Café Mi Tierra or...
Mi Tierra.
Something like that. I don't
Tierra
know.
Mia Café.
They're
cool, but if you want to,
I just go because they're. I'd rather go to them than Starbucks.
Well, better
That's
than
it.
Starbucks, yes,
Yeah.
and they have more corporations, they have more franchise. But if you want to support a smaller one in Boyle Heights, in the heart of Boyle Heights, there's Café Rebelde.
Okay.
I
don't drink coffee, but
I
mean,
love coffee.
But
the sister hermana Yvette, it's 45 families that it supports the Café Zapatista that she sells, and these are 45 families in Mexico. you know, and you're supporting a good cause, a good movement with the Zapatistas.
And we can learn those principles and use those principles here, where we go, oh, this coffee shop or Malinali Superfoods supports 20 families. This is a picture of all the people that work here and all the people that contribute here. This is who you support.
While building community.
And dude, they can't stop our shit. They can't stop our community. They can't stop our heart. They can't stop our wisdom. After you hear the stories of Geronimo and his suicide mission to go back home because he was so hurt and so pain, he realized he was fighting for the people, that it was bigger than him. It was the community that he had to represent now. When people looked to him to be a leader, he had to calm himself down. He had to make better decisions because his community's on his back.
I have to study him. I haven't read up on him. I had a friend in high school.
You have to read between the lines because it's white people and it was written a long time ago. But you
There's
can't lie to
too,
me.
right?
You can't lie to
There's
me.
a movie on him.
Yeah, there's a movie.
By a native.
Yeah.
By a native
I mean,
guy.
research it. Read the documentary. Read the book. Do whatever you need to. But he was a very special man, and he went through some trauma, and he was the one that really became fearless of death. And after they took his family and forced his people to be on reservations and not to be able to be innately connected to the earth in the way they wanted to be.
I need to do research on him. I had a friend in high school who called me Geronimo because in Spanish, Heron, sometimes they will call me Herónimo.
Oh, okay.
So in English, it's Geronimo.
Nice. He is an amazing story. He's an amazing elder. We have many, many more that they never wrote about. But I'll use his. I've been just, I'm into audiobooks and I pop it in there. Instead of listening to music, I'll listen to a book, and I get
that's diet too. That's food.
Yeah, it's just something I do. I'd rather just, instead of sit there and scroll or fucking watch TV or whatever, I want to learn my history. I want to learn the perspective that the ones that came before me struggled through.
Something you reminded me of right now that I wanted to bring earlier, but I forgot, was, how you were talking about how they want to push this idea of what's trending and this abusive approach
called
towards things.
Algorithms.
Right.
Algorithms.
So do you know who created that a long time ago? He's the one who first defined the word meme. So before memes were even memes on social media, the guy who came up with the whole Bang Theory, the Big Bang Theory, he said that the most important thing that you have to be mindful of and aware of is the memes put in your head by the stories that others tell you. So the meme is a picture, right? Like when now we can see it, but before you couldn't pull up a meme. Before it was, Jesus died on the cross for you. That's a meme. Of picturing a man dying for you on the cross, and now you owe him everything. That's a meme. And he said the most important thing you have to be careful of are memes.
Well, imagine now with just every 10 seconds you can see one.
Yeah,
So.
And that's why I'm saying they're reprogramming our frequency of thought, and we need to unprogram that and go back to the ancestral way.
But let's not be fooled, man. I by no means do I say or understand that I'm not in a position where I'm kind of captive to the city and the comforts of it, right? I've been really reflecting on that, and challenging myself little by little. I mean, I still have a lot of life to live. But I know that the next 20 years of my life is going to be to try to live as off the grid as possible. However far I take it between now and these 20 years is really going to be, and at the same time still be the profound artist that I am, that I try to be for my community that I love dearly, because I love my children just as much as I love my community. I want them to know that everything I've written or put in motion has been with the 7 generations in mind. Humble. I may have been arrogant in my youth. I may have been overconfident in my youth. But I'm focused. And know that the community of LA natives, all we want is to be left alone to learn who we truly are. And that is all dependent on our own self and how much time we put into our own research of our own development, of our own spirit. All of you guys have the power to do it. I know because I'm living proof. I took it serious when I went into the sweat lodge. When I say 7 generations, I mean it. Whether you think I'm native or not. I know that my brother Natani Means looks at me like a brother. And I look at him like a brother. And I know he has flaws. And I have flaws. According to society. But that doesn't stop him from being my brother. I'd rather fight with him than someone who says they're going to do good by me and never did, which is the U.S. government, which is any colonial elite, any colonizer, never did good by anybody. They're liars, they're thieves, they're human traffickers, they're dangerous. So,
thank you for everyone tuning in. The chat was lit.
Yeah, use your power to overcome all.
Make sure you guys tune in this Sunday. We got Zero of El Vuh. We got Head On right here in the building.
This is one of the most, I would say, more lit chats I've seen on YouTube.
Well, that was the idea. Head On was that I wanted to designate somebody from the chat. I wish we had read a little bit more, but we'll improve as we go along. Yeah. And I know it's coming at you 100 miles an hour,
but this was the whole point of the Wednesdays, right? When we added this
Open
segment,
discussions.
Yeah, you know, after the great Sunday episodes that we have, you know, when we're actually focused on the artists themselves.
Yeah. Well, that shouldn't end. I think, you know, we did a few things different today. Like we put some music on before we started the podcast. I mean, we have Head On dedicated to the chat, and you know, you have my opinion going off on subjects that people want to hear about. So that's a pretty good show, and thank you very much, community, for being involved and sharing your voice. And you know, this stays on Twitch for 2 weeks, and YouTube gets the comments as well. So.
And you know, and what I like to always say, we're always peaking as soon as we're ending.
I just think people find out that we're on and they want to chime in into what we're saying and stuff. So, but. This is a good episode. Just know that, you know, this cancel culture thing and this, you got to be aware of the algorithms that being thrown at you.
It's by design.
And know that, you know, people will always come up with their conclusions and theories of absolute understanding and truth. But if it doesn't come from a place of humility and wisdom and a place of knowing that you'll never know, then you must question. That was the problem I had with Christianity or Catholicism or any of that. It didn't have any genuine people there. I don't think you're genuine by saying, you're not this and I am that. By no means do I would ever say the Africans were here before us. We were here. We have our own creation stories. We have our own connection with time and the fire. You don't believe me? We'll go to the mountains and we'll talk to the old ones. They're there. They've been timekeeping for a very long time. Don't let social media distract you and elevate your frequency to nonsense. Be stronger, be wiser, be humble. Focus in on yourself and your own emotional state, because that's the only one that matters. Our ancestors were brilliant because they had foods that affected the certain organs in the body, and the glands were looked upon and focused on. Why glands? Because glands secrete hormone. Hormone secrete emotion. Emotion is your reality. That's my opinion. You got to study in a way that's in between the lines, that's sovereign, so that we can be confident when we defend ourselves against tyranny and obvious white supremacists and narcissistic leaders. Stay strong, stay wise, stay woke, trust in yourself. Trust in the fire that lives within you. We'll see you Sunday.
We'll see you Sunday, guys. Peace.